as well, and we are talking to Ari Meirov of the 33rd team. Ari, let's get to the Detroit Lions, a team in which you showed a lot of love for last year. You were one of the first ones that came on our show and told us that you saw something there. Obviously, the Detroit Lions and Brad Holmes have talked a lot about Anthony Richardson. They've talked about 5 times they went during the season to see him. They were on him before everybody else was. But it looks like everybody's on Anthony Richardson now. How real is the hype behind Anthony Richardson? And we'll get into the Lions at 6. But right now, first question: how real is the Anthony Richardson hype train?
I think it's very real, and I think really a lot of these teams, whenever it comes to the combine process, they really fall in love with the word traits. And there might not be a bigger quarterback who has those traits than Anthony Richardson. And obviously, you're going to hear the word raw, and you're going to hear that you need some time. But there are teams out there, and I would not probably rule out the Seahawks at 5, even the Lions at 6, who are like, we have a quarterback right now, but we see this guy who could, in a year from now, getting under our coaches and working with them, where we could see him take that next step and become what a quarterback is supposed to be in the year 2023. So I think a lot of teams fell in love with him, especially last week at the Combine. I think the Combine, the one thing that some teams fall into the trap with Combine is that they're there and they fall in love with what happened on the field there, but then they forget what happened on tape and what they saw. So you have to really combine everything together and project where you think he's going to be moving forward. But I think a lot of people really, really love Anthony Richardson. I think the most polarizing quarterback in this draft is probably Will Levis. You could hear one thing from somebody, hear the complete opposite of the other. Bryce Young, nobody disagrees about the talent, but I think the frame is talked about a lot. But there will be a GM who probably moves up to get him, and is going to be drafting a total outlier, and he's going to be depending on the talent and hoping that the frame isn't a problem. And then CJ Stroud, I think he's a quarterback that will go pretty high in this draft. I mean, I've heard a lot of great things about him, and frankly, I think he's the one that you're always going to hear the thing about Ohio State quarterbacks and all that, but I think he's the one that a lot of people are high on, and he probably, I would say, has the least questions about him going into this draft.
Detroit Lions sitting at pick 6 and also sitting at pick 18 in the first round. Everybody's talking about Anthony Richardson and these quarterbacks, but if they're not there, what do you do? Detroit Lions, do they have to draft a Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech? Do they have to draft a Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon? Or can they make moves, let's say, I don't know, for instance,
trade the pick.
Exactly, trade the pick. Or Drummond Jones out of the Denver Broncos. You see what they did. Or C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Seems like they're not going to get along with the Philadelphia Eagles and free agency. Can they go free agency, spend some money, and also use the draft to their benefit?
Yeah, I think this will be the first free agency where we see Brad Holmes actually spending some real money. Like, up until now, it's been more of that wave 2 free agents or trying to find some value. I think now they've built that culture in Detroit. Yeah. They got to see, almost make the playoffs. I think the entire country now freaking loves Detroit. And it's like there are players who probably want to come there, which is something you guys haven't heard about in a very long time.
Exactly.
So
now is the time, Ari.
Now is the time where I think might be going after some high echelon free agents, as long as they think it fits their building, which obviously Brad and Dan Campbell take very seriously. But I think this will be the first offseason where we finally see them spending some real money on free agents and trying to take that team to the next level, especially knowing that Chicago obviously has so many holes. Aaron Rodgers might be out the door in Green Bay, and Minnesota could possibly maybe blow it up a little bit because that roster has a lot of aging veterans, and they could really move on from. Seen them do that already with guys like Eric Kendricks and maybe Adam Thielen coming up. So they might see an opportunity here, and having 2 picks in the first round, having the cap space they do, and obviously building that culture that they've done in the past 2 years. I would let free agency happen first and then come back to you about what they're going to do at 6 and 18. But free agency for the first time under Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, I think they might be involved more than the last 2 years.
Ari, I'm gonna pose this question to you, which I put out to our chat every single day, and I'm in the minority here. I want them to draft a quarterback. Everyone here is in love with Jared Goff. What do you think? Would you draft if let's just say A-Rich is gone and you guys have him going first to Indianapolis in your latest mock draft? You guys got him going to Indy, trading up with the Bears. So you think he's going to be gone. So if the Lions don't have a choice of him, let's just say Will Levis is there at 6. Jalen Carter is gone.
Boo.
Will Anderson is gone.
Boo.
Are you taking Will Levis?
No.
Are you trading that pick? What are you doing?
Well, you guys have heard me say this time and time before. I think Brad Holmes is a talent evaluator at heart, and when he sees something, he knows what's going on there. That front office is really draft and develop first, and you guys have seen it the last 2 years. So if he identifies a quarterback in this draft, I would not be surprised if he takes one. I don't know which one that would be, but I would not be surprised at all if he takes one. He clearly did not identify one last year because people thought maybe Malik Willis, maybe Kenneth Pickett, or whatever, and he clearly didn't see any of those, and he didn't draft them despite them sliding down and Detroit having multiple picks. But the reality is, what are the chances you'll be back up here in the draft next year is what they have to think about, right? You have a team that's moving, clearly going up. The reason they're even in this position right now is because of a pick that's not theirs, right? So next year you don't have that luxury. So assuming you guys do well. So I think that's part of the equation. And I think that's what Seattle at 5 is thinking about and Detroit at 6 is thinking about, because both those teams got their picks because they traded their former quarterback. And obviously no team wants to be drafting that high. And because this draft has 4 guys who could go high in the draft, you have to at the very least do your work there at the quarterbacks. And if you fall in love with somebody, he's there when you're picking, at the very least you have to consider it, because I don't think anybody, as much as Detroit loves Jared Goff and Seattle loves Geno Smith, I don't think anybody sees them being the quarterback 5 years from now. So the quarterback is the most important position on the roster. So they're going to do their homework there. And again, if Brad sees somebody that he thinks could be the quarterback for the next 10, 15 years, I don't blame him pulling the trigger. So do it.
All right, quick question. The last one we have for you. If you're a Detroit Lions fan, what is the thing that makes you the most nervous about going into this season? I'm talking about even expediting past the draft, expediting past free agency. What's the thing that makes you most nervous from last year to this year?
They're the Lions.
Yeah. Yes. Damn, man, that was a good one.
By far, the most nervous thing that will make it is, up until now, the hype train wasn't with you guys, right? I think I was on the bandwagon, but a lot of people were not. Yeah. I think going into this year, it's going to be, the entire national media is going to be on top of you guys. And going into training camp, you're going to have all these national people coming there and talking about the Lions and the excitement and trying to get interviewed and trying to talk to you guys. It reminds me a little bit, if you remember, the year the Browns traded for Odell Beckham Jr. and how everyone was on top of Cleveland. And then they just didn't do well at all that year, right? Because there was way too much hype going into the year. So I think going into the year and going into training camp, there's going to be such a hype train around Detroit that this coaching staff and the front office, frankly, are going to have to tell the players, listen, everyone is on top of us, but we're starting the year 0-0. Everyone is 0-0. So, like, we cannot fall for that everyone loves us and everything's going to be great. Like, we still have to do the work. So I think that's the one thing that's going to be scary to me, because everyone loved Detroit last year, but they still didn't make the playoffs, right? So we want to, everyone, I would not be shocked if people have Detroit winning the NFC North when we get into training camp. And the players are going to see that. And you just want to limit the expectations, because everyone else outside the building is going to be all over. You have to make sure it doesn't get the building. You get too comfortable.
Yeah, the one thing about the Lions, every time they feel they have arrived, and there's been a few games that they won where they're like, okay, we're good, then everything falls apart.
Yeah.
So that's a history with this franchise.
No, you're absolutely correct, and that was absolutely that was the perfect answer. He's Ari Meirov of the 33rd Team FB. He is our favorite insider. You can follow him at My Sports Update. He is a hell of a follow on Twitter. Ari, we appreciate you always.
Thanks, Ari.
Thanks for having me on. Sorry for the difficulties with the camera setup.
No difficulties. The audio was perfect. The audio was everything.
Well, sorry for you. You had to hold the phone. Sorry, man.
True. We appreciate you, brother.
Don't worry about that.
All right, man. We'll see you next time, man.
We'll see you next time.